Welcome to the OG Ty Podcast, where we will dive into everyday life in the trucking industry and share tips on how to make things better in your life. Let's get started. Here is your host, Tyrone Dawson.
I'm back, better than ever, like I never left. Those were the words of a kingpin from the city of Washington, D.C. by the name of Rayful Edmond III. Rayful Edmond was born on November 1964, on the day of November the 26th. He is an American former drug trafficker in Washington, D.C. In the 1980s, Edmond was the largest and responsible for having to introduce the city of Washington, D.C. with the biggest crack era that Washington, D.C. ever saw. And during the crack epidemic, resulting in an escalating crime rate in the city, in which became known as the murder capital of the United States. Rayful Edmond was born on November the 26th, 1964. Right now, he's 59 years old. He's maybe older, I'm not sure. He had a undisclosed federal records. So what that means, when you have undisclosed federal records, either you snitched on someone or they're hiding you away with a new identity. It was said that Rayful Edmond was doing a lot of snitching back in his days. In the 1990s, when he got locked up, he snitched on so many people. A couple of his comrades, his mother, a couple of his plugs from out of state. And so I'm assuming they are hiding him under another identity. And that is called the witness program. When you are in the witness program, they give you a new name, a new address, transfer you to a new location, so no one can track you down. But Rayful Edmond is now on the internet saying he's back and better than ever. Guys, is that a good idea for Rayful Edmond? Because though he has snitched on so many people, including his connect, a lot of murders was connected to this guy also. I was in Washington, D.C. for a little while, so I remember that era when Rayful Edmond was at his best. I used to see him. I was a young kid. I saw him going to clubs and fancy cars. In that year, he had like exotic cars. And he also knew and touched elbows with a lot of people that were popular back in those days. I remember one incident. I was hanging out with one of my OGs from my neighborhood. I am from Washington, D.C. also. So we used to always go to the club, and we would stand out to watch the guys who had the Versace, back Sergio Tacchini sweatsuits, the Pumas. And I would just watch these guys, and one day they said, there go Rayful Edmond. I had no idea who Rayful Edmond is. I was like 15, 14 years old. But the impression that I saw when I saw him on New York Avenue at a club called Dino's, he pulled up in this nice SUV. It looked like a Range Rover back then. And he had at least 3 to 4 cars riding behind him. These cars, once he got out, a rack of young dudes with hoodies got out with him. And they just walked to the straight of the line, and his whole entourage just walked in. The guy who I was with, like, that's Rayful Edmond. I still had no idea who Rayful Edmond was. But that impression that I saw was very, it was intriguing. So I wanted to know more about who Rayful Edmond was. Like I said, I was 14 years old. I never knew of a drug dealer. I was just a little kid wanting to hang out and just have fun. So Maybe about a year or two later, I see him on the news. He was getting transported from a helicopter. He had like this black bandana on his head or skull cap, and I remember he had on a blue jacket hopping out of this helicopter with handcuffs on. And I remember I saw that guy at the club. Come to find out, he was the biggest drug dealer in Washington, D.C., which I never knew who was a drug dealer. I didn't care who was a drug dealer. But I do remember seeing this guy at the club on New York Avenues called Dino's. I think Breeze used to own that place or whatever. Some older guy with a jerry curl. I was too young to get in the club, so I would be outside with a couple of my OGs. And we just would be outside when the club either about to let out or it was just people still going in. We would just sit out there, just watch the people. Because I was trying to see who and what and, who was the big dogs in my city. And Rayful Edmond was one of those guys who pulled up with an entourage. I never knew what an entourage was. Mike Tyson was the only guy that I seen that came close to Rayful Edmond pulling up with an entourage. Mike Tyson was that guy also. I saw him at DC Live. This was probably like 5 or 6 years later. Once I knew who Rayful Edmond was locked up. So, Rayful Edmond was engaging in a continuous criminal enterprise under 21 U.S.C. That's a 848 count 1. Conspiracy to distribute process with the intent to distribute more than 5 kilograms of cocaine and more than 50 grams of cocaine based under the law 21 U.S.C. 846. 2 counts. Unlawful employing a person under the age of 18. Under 21, the U.S.C. 845, count 5. Interstate travel of age of racketeering under the age of 18. So he's been indicted in all these counts. And I think he had like so many accounts against him. And I think he got life in prison. Unlawful use of communication in a facility under the law 21 U.S.C. That's an 843 count. 14 count to 16 and 18 counts on September the 17th. In 1990, the District of Court imposed a sentence of mandatory life without the possibility of parole. Within 60 months of the count, it was said that he started back to drug dealing after he got life in prison. So, he was in jail. He continued his business within the walls of USP. And he had got a hookup with Griselda Blanco's son to distribute cocaine down to Washington, D.C. Griselda was a Colombia plug up there with Pablo Escobar. So she was up there like with the big time Colombians. And Rayful Edmond had got a connection with her son while they both was in jail. Her son was doing 5 years. Rayful Edmond had a life sentence. So when the son got out after doing 5 years, he kept in contact with Rayful Edmond over the wall. So Rayful Edmond sent his men to meet Griselda Blanco's son to pick up cocaine. Kilos of cocaine. But guess what happened, guys? The DC guys never paid Griselda Blanco's son his money. And so that put Rayful Edmond in a situation where his life was in danger. So this is why they said he started snitching on guys in Washington, D.C. because they effed over him with the connect. And the connect was looking at Rayful Edmonds like, you said this was good business. Where's the money? So what did Rayful Edmonds do? He go behind their back, set up a second deal, but the feds was involved with the second deal. So he got numerous guys from Washington, D.C. indicted, got them locked up, got them doing time. And on top of that, Griselda Blanco's son, was trying to set her son up also to get his mother time reduced. So guys, if you are in the drug game and you cannot handle what goes on with drugs, crimes, don't get involved, because you're going to have to wear this jacket for the rest of your life. And that jacket is called being a rat. You are putting everybody's lives in danger. Yourself, your moms, your family. So if you want to be the big dog of your city, you got to deal with what comes behind that. Not go rat on the whole city. So, Rayful Edmonds has did over 35 years in jail, and he's home on the internet saying that he's back and better than ever. A lot of people from the city do not like the fact that you got somebody father locked up. You got somebody mother locked up. You got somebody uncles locked up. And so what I want to say, you probably want to be careful out here, Mr. Edmonds. I never met you. I don't know you. You from my city. You're a big icon in the city. But my boy, you got to leave the city of Washington, D.C. I don't think it's safe here for you. This is not 1989 no more. This is 2024. And people are lurking. You are a big fish. And what they want to do, they always want to take down the big fish. But guys, we're not going to speak too much on Mr. Rayful Edmonds, but I just want to say welcome home from the OG Ty Podcast. If you ever hear this, I do remember meeting you back in 89. I was like 14 years old, and you was doing your thing back in that area. Brian Plummer. Do y'all remember him? Plumper. Who is Brian Plumper? Guys, he was a porn star who used to crack eggs on top of female heads and do weird dances. Guys, he's out of jail. What he was in jail for, I don't know. But he has surfed the internet once again. Remember when he was cracking eggs on female heads? Somebody caught him at the bus stop and threw eggs at him. They were mad that he was wearing that fake jewelry again. And guys, he still looks the same. The porn star Brian Plumper, he still looks the same, and he's back. But a lot of people want to do interviews with him because that guy was different. He was interesting. He used to do porn. You know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing about his porn. I don't care about his porn. But a lot of people say he used to do porn, and a lot of females was interested in this guy. But guys, he's back. He's on the internet surfing again. They say he got blackballed from out the porn industry, so I guess now he coming up with a new plan. But he is surfing the internet, and his name is Brian Plumper. And let's see where this goes, because I haven't seen this guy in so long. Guys, do you know Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign has dropped a debut album, and it went number 2? Guess how many albums the album sold in the USA for the first week? It sold 60,000 copies the first week. And guys, I didn't even know they still buy CDs or albums or whatever they buy. I don't even know how they buy it. But he sold 60,000, and it's going up to about 107,000 units the first week. So guys, check that out. Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign has an album out. Kanye West is a great producer. He makes soulful music, relaxing. So I'm going to check that out as soon as I get off this podcast. Jay-Z and Damon Dash. Once again, Jay-Z attorneys filed for the court document warning any buyers of Damon Dash Rockefeller shares will only own it until 2031. So what that means? So Jay-Z is basically saying if you buy Damon Dash shares of Rockefeller, you will only own those shares until 2023. So what that means, guys, every 30 years, if a artist records an album or a record, after 30 years, all of those shares and it comes back to the rapper, the artist after 30 years. So, for example, Universal Records put out my album. They make $100 million off my album. After 30 years, I can remaster my album, take away all of their rights, and put a new barcode on it. And now that album is 100% mine. So basically, that's what Jay-Z's saying. Go ahead and get what you get, because after 30 years, I get all of that back in 2031. And knowing Jay-Z, he's going to put a barcode on everything where you cannot make no money off his music, because Jay-Z is a businessman. And even though Damon Dash is financially struggling, I'm assuming Jay-Z's going to let him do what he got to do. But after 30 years, Jay-Z going to lock all that down. And he got the lawyers to back it up. So in Washington, D.C., a man attacks a police U.S. Capitol with a pole, swinging at him. And guys, he received 20 years. And that is the longest sentence of an attack on the U.S. Capitol Police. And January the 6th, the longest before that, someone attacked one of them U.S. Capitol Police, and they received 6 years. So that was the longest. But this guy who swung a pole at one of those U.S. he got 20 years. This is the longest sentence that someone has received for swinging or attacking a U.S. Capitol Police. Where's the U.S. Capitol Police located, Tyrone? At the White House. All of those police is at the White House. If you attack them, that's a 20-year sentence. So leave those guys alone, because they are protecting the White House by any means necessary. Baltimore City, the mayor of Baltimore, has just married his fiance on Sunday. And it was at a private ceremony, guys. Mayor Brian Scott just got married on Sunday to his fiance, Miss Pose. And guys, it was a beautiful wedding. I saw the pictures, but I wasn't there. But congratulations to the mayor. And his name is Brian Scott. Young guy, cool, well, professional. I like. And he's from Baltimore. He's the mayor of Baltimore. And his name is Brian Scott. He just got married. Also, have you guys seen the airplane that was falling from the sky? It was surfing the internet all week. And there were no survivors after the flight has crashed. It carried 61 people. And the crash happened in Brazil on Friday. The passenger plane was traveling from Brazil and was going to an airport nearby. The plane had 57 passengers and 4 crew members on the ship. And all of the crew members and the passengers has died. One ticket passenger ended up not being on the flight, authority says. And there's no confirmation of how the accident occurred. The airline said Flight 2283 took off without any operation restrictions with all systems, capabilities, and carrying out the flight was valid. So everything was cool with this airplane. So they do not know what happened. Why this airplane just all of a sudden dropped out the sky, but no one on the plane made it. If you haven't seen the video, just look at video of airplane fall out the sky in Brazil. But no one made it on that flight, guys. So I want to say RIP to the family and my condolence here at the OG Top Podcast. I want to give out a special, RIP to the families. And I'm sorry to hear that you have to go to this if you had, any loved ones on that plane at the time. But guys, once again here at the OG Top Podcast, I'm not going to hold you up until next time. I just want to say thank you for listening, and we are out. Peace.